We'll get into democracy catastrophe. Just an analyst, a armchair quarterback view of what could be happening in the future in the state of politics. And for me, I have no crystal ball. Well, Crystal Tom Kalinske is already married to Crystal Ball, but you know that as as a fortune teller, the ball is very foggy. As I start to get up in years, I might be like one of those younger generation Gen Xers that is going to end up dying a lot sooner than uh, a lot of folks. This is kind of why I'm doing this, is because as a person that's 50 now, um, I don't want, as one person would say it, I want to say something, and I want to be able to go to bed and be able to sleep at night knowing somebody heard me say something. Um, comes from my ex sister in law, telling me before my brother Jim passed away back in 2018. And I'm telling you this because family matters to me. And a bunch of you folks understand that family is very important to you. And some of you are out there married, have kids, have jobs, um, have a life that involves school, changing diapers, going to football games, ballets, dance recitals, homecoming, stuff that families do as together. And I'm not going to count all the single folk out there that are trying to or attempting to have a family or not have a family. That's okay too. But what I'm trying to do is try to reach out to everyone to get people to understand what me thinks. And when I think, you look at me and you're just as fat or just as not that great looking, um, you tend to want to say, hey, this guy might have a point. Maybe I can relate to this this freaking jagoff. I'm not a jagoff, but I am a person who's generally concerned about the state of affairs of the United States and the country that I proudly served and love. I love this country. I don't love the bullshit that goes with it, but who doesn't? If you love this country and you just don't like the bullshit, you're my type of people. We can relate. It doesn't really matter if you're a Republican or Democrat. And sometimes I take a snooty attitude towards Republicans because of the fact that they don't generally want to understand stuff, but they complain. And when they see things going wrong on the Republican side, they still blame Democrats, and no matter what, it's those damn Democrats' fault when Republicans are clearly in charge. Well, it goes way back there in Clinton and that black guy named Obama or some guy and some old geezer that looks like that puppet. And you all may have agreed. And a lot of times, if you've seen some of my commentary, I just fall asleep because sometimes it's just fucking boring to talk about the same old shit. So, what is the title of today's message? The title of today's message is what's going on in 2028? And I'll tell you one thing, I don't know. But people, there's like a, let's just say, for instance, you're a bookie. You take down people's bets. You hedge bets and say, my money's on this person, my money's on that person, that one on that person. And what goes on is that you get the stats and stuff or the biography of the stats of an athlete or a team or something like that, and find out why they're in the position that they're in on a rank scale, and it goes with politics. And the thing about being a bookie and trying to hedge your bets, um, right now, Tim Walz to me seems to be poised to win 2028 as far as I'm concerned in the Democratic primary because he impressed the crap on me. Who would it be his partner? I'm willing to bet it'd be J.B. Pritzker. Either that or AOC as the vice presidential candidate. But somebody in the Republican Party decided to put on an op-ed to start virtualizing to get people to start hedging their bets on AOC in 2028 and putting a lot of money in stock and investing and pushing for AOC to be in part of the presidential Democratic primary. For me, all right, let's put that name in that hat. While she's at it, she might as well put her name in for the Democratic Senate seat for New York. Okay. Now, let's just say, for example, she does not get the primary, she doesn't win the Democratic primary. Somebody like Gavin Newsom, somebody like Pete Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, and I'll tell you a thing or two. The Democrats do not have their shit together. And I'm going to be straight up right now. They're wanting to put losers that are inside of the Democratic primary. And lo and behold, Democrats put as many losers as they possibly can into the Democratic primary. And for the last 2 cycles, they haven't had a primary. Why? Because Biden was Obama's pick. Only after everybody circled the wagons and sabotaged Bernie Sanders in 2020. Now you look at Bernie Sanders. He may not have the skin in the game. He might just end up just plain all retiring. And good for him. He deserves it. He should go on as many circuits as he possibly can to start pushing younger, vibrant candidates in the federal on the federal level. You do that, then you get some state stars to start pushing for local stars for the Democrat Party, and then, and only then, you'll start to see new stars starting to pop out from God knows where. Maybe in San Antonio, Texas, maybe Seattle, Washington, maybe Portland, Oregon, maybe Augusta, Maine, for all we know, or Peoria, Illinois, for all we know, for all we care about. And we need not more stars, but we need to have a more cohesive Democratic Party that is going to go set around the FDR's second Bill of Rights. And I think I've already explained that later in the last segment. I talked about it before. If you support that, chances are you get behind it at a local level and it starts spreading from counties in your home state, wherever that may be. It starts to become popular. Then the state next door says, hey, wait a minute. What they got going on over here is working. What is it that they're doing? Then you find out who that person is. Because we need people like that. We need those underdogs. We need those like dark knights, those shadowy figures to actually just appear instead of what media just regurgitates to us, because what they do is they lie to you and say that this person is strong because of, and they throw out so many credentials or hoopla and mishmash, jibber jabber, that you realize that the media is full of shit. When since Trump says things full of shit, the people listen. And the truth is, I think that's kind of one of the reasons why Trump won the election. It is because the media is full of shit. And his task may be to censor social media altogether about political issues that criticize him. And if that's the case, then fuck him. He can go sucking a big fat egg for all I care. But in the meantime, we cannot be running along like Chicken Little saying the sky is falling when we need to take everything day by day and just judge what's going on at this very point. And as far as I'm concerned, and I'm relying a lot on social media, Jon Stewart and Kyle Kulinski and others to keep us cued of what's going on. Now, if you don't know what's going on how our politics works, nothing's going to make sense to you. End of story. Republicans want that base, and they want to keep that base. They want to keep it fed. They want to keep people uneducated about how our system works. So what they'll do, as you throw in a person's name. You can have like credentials up the wazoo. And so what the media does is they just put a feeding frenzy of just media hoo-ha to the public, saying this person did what, to whom, to whatever, and it's not has anything to do with what's happening around the United States. Everything is going to be based upon character. Well, look at him. He's a rich fraudster pedophile rapist. But yet still won the election. That tells us about who we are as a people. It tells us that character don't really matter. It tells us that we're more concerned about a person's name. It doesn't matter what doesn't matter what the person did. If that person has done nothing for 1 or 2, 3 whole days, that person's kind of forgotten. Just being tossed aside until the next schmo comes in for the next 15 minutes of fame. That's what it sounds like to me. That's how you stay relevant. You just got to do something so outlandish to get some sort of attention these days to stay relevant. And that's just a bunch of garbage. We are stupid in that regard. So in this article that was been read to us, that says, do not discount AOC. I'm heavily going to discount her for one reason and one reason only. The fact that she's a woman and she's a woman of color. And I hate to say this. And she deserves to be in that spot. She deserves to be part of the Democratic primary presidential, whatchamacallit. She deserves it. She's earned it. She's the most articulate, most charismatic, the most outspoken, and the most aggressive fighters I have ever saw in my entire life. Next to Bernie Sanders. Next to Dwight D. Eisenhower. And he was a Republican. Next to Lyndon Baines Johnson. Next to Theodore Roosevelt. And next to FDR. She emboldens that second Bill of Rights that FDR wanted to be in place on his 4th term in the White House. You don't get 4 terms like that at all unless your policies are terrific. The Republicans hate that. They've hated the fact, they've hated FDR. They wanted to get rid of him. They want to bury him. They want to bury what seems to be like a shame, a stain in American history, just to get rid of a name that's synonymous with Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, housing, and a stronger America since 1936. It was not his second term when things started to turn around for the United States. And that's what they're going to have one in the second term in office, and want him the third term in office was that the regime was so hot in Europe that he thought that all was going to be the camel was going to break this camel's back. He understood what was happening in Japan. He understood the ramifications of alienating Europe and Asia from the rest of the world. He understood what was in the way. And he was willing to pay a political price just so we can support our allies in Britain and in France. And all the other allies that supported a vision that fascism was a huge threat to democracy before communism was. You had Hirohito, who was possibly the biggest emperor of the time, being supported by a military that was so driven to rid mainline Asia of all colonialists that weren't Chinese or Japanese. And they wanted to claim China as their own government in which they could support trade throughout the Pacific. That's as much as I understand it. I could be wrong. But the fact of the matter is, FDR was popular. And there will be no other FDR. But we need somebody that is like FDR. We need somebody who is going to embrace that second Bill of Rights, that is willing to look at what the greater problem is in America, and that's wealth inequality. And you take on what Eisenhower, on his exit out of the United States, says the biggest problem is you need to be watchful of the military industrial machine because they create wars for the billionaires just to extract the resources out of countries that cannot defend themselves. And for the last 60, 70 years, Eisenhower's right. So, what I'm asking for all of you is if you're willing to support the Democratic Party, throw in names that you would like to run. And AOC, as much as she has earned the right to be in that primary, I don't think she's going to win. But I pray I'm wrong on that. But I pray that she does, and that she does go in that primary. I hope she whoops some ass in 2028. Am I endorsing her? Not financially, but she's got my moral support. But that's not going to help. But if you got money some spare change and the small dollars that she's been asking for from the time she started campaigning for New York's 14th. Support her. If you think she has a chance, support her in every way you can. For me, who I want to see president of the United States is Tim Walz. He's made a lot. He's made sense all throughout that short period of time. He's made more sense than anybody out there. Kamala Harris, she's an attack dog, and she can actually just sign book deals and go on the lecture series. It makes millions of dollars and be able to raise money for the DNC and the DCCC and a few others. Then I just see her in the supporting role, just like Obama and Biden. Because do you think Biden's going to be sitting on the sidelines? Hell no. I don't care if he's in now or not. He's going to be in there to put money into the pockets of the candidates needing money to raise for those campaign ads that we all dread and hate. Those little buttons, those streamers, the balloons. I know all that bullshit that we all hate. We just think it's nonsense, but it's not. Because one thing about democracy, which I love, is the fact that there's so many different ideas that once you put them in place, or have people who put their vision in place as against the status quo, because a lot of people are not understanding the fact that this 1972 jalopy is starting to fall apart, and yet we still find parts to keep that thing alive, even though it's not even working. So, what do you say? Do you want to support your candidates? Do you want to support the parties, the Democratic Party? Do you want to support an independent? Do you want to do something? Because your voice still does count, even though in the end, even though if the media keeps doing what they're doing, eventually people are just going to turn out their TV. They're going to go to social media. People are just going to, and the rest of people are going to either die off or going into social media because they're getting tired of being lied to. And for your sake, I don't like being lied to. Do you?